Also, it is true, it is best to fight our evil family, cause that way you can break the cycle, even if it destroys your legacy. It was smart as well to show that fathers were traditionally always in the right, like with the father of Hitler. Also, love can be reborn, like with Cleopatra, who got over Julius Caesar with Anthony the Great. So this was a really deep, smart, and multi-layered theme. And also there's a deep theme on facing your fears and frustrations, apathy and acceptance, centered around Lawrence and his detailed character arc. Lawrence was a warm child who loved his brother and mother, but when he thought she killed herself, he became sad and scared, and his father had him committed, which caused him to break off contact with him. And of course also his brother, which made him really lonely and feel guilty, showing fear can cause us to be too extreme and cold. His brother stayed with his father and was killed, showing it was right to reject his father, but he shouldn't have given up on his brother or family, showing we often act too extreme when acting on fear. And we see we can become cold from loneliness as well as self-destructive as he drinks excessively. And we only come to dislike ourselves, and we become in denial as Lawrence makes up excuses, and this can only hurt contact further with others as it makes Gwen angry at him. But we see that eventually we often come to recognize our warm and loving sides as well, as Lawrence goes back and remembers how much his mother and brother meant to him, and it is good to face her inner problems as he goes back to his hometown. But we see we can still be self-destructive and unwise as Lawrence still drinks and picks a fight with the man who insulted his mother. I never got that though. Why don't people just have the sense of humor to appreciate a fun your mom joke? It's just something all people have, I never got. It might have to do with my Tourette. Or the fact I don't have a soul. Well, that's basically synonymous. Also, we see that, therefore, facing our past can be stressful and painful, but in the end we do feel better as Lawrence is glad to be there for his brother, now that he's dead. But that we can often stay in a pattern of passive aggression as Lawrence is angry at his father, also showing we should focus on the future, not too much on just the past, as he ignores Gwen, who he later falls in love with. The film demonstrates that by becoming more caring, we can cause others to be nicer as well and feel more fulfilled, as Lawrence is warmer to Gwen and apologizes over being rude towards his father in front of her and supports her over the death of Ben, and she acts nicer to him and even can cry in front of him, and she starts to talk with him, and we see acknowledging her painful past and talking about it helps, as Lawrence does, talking about being committed with Gwen. You know what? It is time for me to talk of my past. Why are you all looking so scared? I stole some cookies from the cooking jar when I was 7, I trained my left hand when I was 17, when I was 19 I visited the hookers, and I just farted back there. Also, I orchestrated the assassination of JFK. Magneto didn't do that, and I helped Sean with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I'm the Grand Master of the KKK. And also we see that eventually we become pure by being courageous, as Lawrence decides to go to the Gypsies and saves people from the Wolfman, but that we can still be reckless and disobedient, as his father told him not to go out that evening, showing our two natures can often not destroy each other and be at conflict. Also, we see this conflict will grow as both sides intensify, because Lawrence is bitten, yet at first is playful and open with Gwen, and relaxed, yet he also becomes more lustful, in denial of his curse, scared and bleak, and he's confronted by the townspeople who are also prejudiced towards him. They don't take kindly to... Sorry, wrong stereotype. That joke was bad. Sorry. Showing some evils don't quickly go away, and we can often sense something is wrong as Lawrence tells Gwen to leave, and we see often our past seems simple but that there are many hidden layers, tying into the theme of honesty as well, as Lawrence asks his father why his mother killed herself, and he simply tells him that she struggled with life and lust, but later when he follows his father into the cave he discovered that he killed her and is a monster, and we see there his beastliness take over and that people can take advantage of her past, as his father does, framing him. Then we see that we can also go for immense physical and mental pain again as they torture Lawrence, and we see he nearly goes insane, but that we can keep going if we remember those we love, which he does now, remembering Gwen, even thinking that she will come to his rescue, and that it is good not to be pragmatic or cowardly, as he decides not to kill himself when his father offers him to do so, but try and escape to do something about his father's evil, and that it can be shocking to learn how our family really is. But that the important thing is to learn from it and act on it, which Lawrence does, finally deciding to stand up to his father, and that our two natures can collide further as he transforms and murders people, yet afterwards is concerned for Gwen, and there we see that you can become at peace by accepting the reality of what happened to you, as he admits that he and his father are monsters, and to allow ourselves to be open over pain, as he tells Gwen all that, and it is important to focus on keeping hope, which he does, praying, and to allow ourselves to feel love again, which he does, but telling Gwen how he feels, and then she kisses him, and then he does the difficult thing, going up to confront his father. And he takes him out. We see sometimes fighting back is the only solution, and when Gwen shoots him, he makes peace and dies in her arms, showing that preserving the purity of her soul and love are the most important things. Oh my god, this is so touching. This reminds me of when I was a kid, and I saw Anakin die on Luke's arms. What, you didn't really expect me to think of something touching that happened in real life? I was born in the 90s, for fuck's sake. So this theme is also really deep and smart, as fear indeed often makes us act too simplistic, as it makes us irrational and emotional, but we should break off contact with abusive people, as it doesn't solve itself, and being lonely can make us feel hurt and forget how to be warm, so it can make us cold. Also indeed, if you don't act on fear, you try to justify it. You try to justify that it's logical to be cowardly. And as a result, you often do secretly admit to yourself you are doing the wrong thing subconsciously. And due to guilt, we often hurt ourselves to punish ourselves, similar to Alexander the Great, who drank very excessively after he killed an important friend, or Nero after he killed his wife. And people often deny that they are scared, like even Saint Peter did, who was very angry at himself as well. Clovis also, who thought that he could beat Alemanni, while actually thinking he couldn't win the battle. This indeed makes our contact more bitter, as it did with Clovis and his wife, when he feared becoming a Catholic yet didn't discuss it. And it is true, we eventually do recognize our warm sides just as they did, yet can still be self-destructive at first, falling into old patterns. Changing is a gradual process. It took a while for Martin Scorsese to quit coke, as he tried to deny being depressed over the failure of New York, New York, which was actually pretty good, by the way. I actually watched it, and I also don't get why people hate on it so much. I mean, Rob De Niro, of course, is always fantastic in it, and I mean, yeah, it's a musical, but some old-fashioned classical musical homages can be good. I mean, there have been good musicals in the past, and the 70s was a period of homaging old genres. Star Wars did that with all kinds of pretty serials, and so then why can't New York, New York do that? I mean, I think it's okay to also homage the more classical fancy genres, and I think it was very well acted, and the songs were actually very good, and it is a very touching, deep story about abusive relationships and about a woman who just wants to have her idealistic dreams come true, but is with the wrong man. So I'm getting off topic again. I really need to quit on the drugs. Oh yes, I take drugs. Not just tropical frogs. That's actually like an old wife still. You really don't get nearly as high on that as you do on ecstasy. I mean, really, you didn't think I was using ecstasy? What the fuck? Facing our past indeed can be painful, but being there for the ones we love does make us feel more righteous, and it is true that by focusing on love, we can feel more joyful and that we can encourage others of talking about the problems as well, and that talking of our own problems also helps with being lonely, as we feel more understood. Also, indeed, really courageous people protect the innocent and have the courage to do what is right, like Pope Pius XII during the Second World War. Yes, I said that. Oh, and he was not an anti-Semite. I'm so totally gonna make a video on that in the future, by the way, another historical video. I know you don't like those. Well, you don't like anything I do. Well, actually, you is totally theoretical because nobody watches these things, but we're getting to that. And two conflicting sides can both become more extreme if we are in extreme situations, and some prejudices disappear slowly, like anti-Semitism, and also family history can often be mysterious. Like a child who was raised as a girl who was actually born a boy. And our history is often used against us as people take advantage of anything they can. And also it is really deep and true that physical pain can drive us nearly insane, yet that love can keep us going. Like Pope Severinus, who was tortured yet supported by his friends and therefore stayed pure. And it is important to be stern and unpragmatic, like resistance fighters. During the Second World War, my mother in fact knew someone who was sexually assaulted yet wouldn't talk. And if we are hurt by our family, we should stand up to them, like Emperor Hay of Han did to his mother. And by accepting the way things are and being open, we can then be at peace, as we just accept the reality and realize that there's both good and evil in the world, and try to be hopeful, as all can help us in dark times, that we can at least do something about the suffering of others, because we're selfless. Also, dying with a pure soul is very important, like Hippolytus of Rome, who made peace with Pope Ponzi and his old friend who he had schismed with before dying, and standing up to evil is crucial, like the Maronites against the Arabs. So this was a really wise and smart theme. And yes, it was good to stand up against the Arabs. I mean, no, that isn't offensive. I'm talking just about that time period, you know. It was also good, for example, of the Byzantines to stand up to the Latins. The Arabs were suppressing innocent Catholics. Get over it. And the Crusades weren't bad either. If you don't like it, bring it on, motherfucker. Also, by the way, I always eat cookies, but I never drink tea with it. Is that a sin? Also, there's a detailed and clever theme on kindness and sacrifice centered on Gwen's character arc. She was a loving wife, but was greatly hurt by Ben's death, as she cares very much for him. She asks Lawrence to help, but he doesn't want to go to first, and although she was at first open and personal, she then insults him for running from his problems, even though she doesn't know of his past, showing that sadness can make us harsh, and we shouldn't be too quick to judge. And we see that we can have been too assumptuous, also, as Lawrence acts very concerned for her, and we can run from her problems ourselves as she leaves when Sir John and Lawrence argue. And that a kind gesture, like Lawrence saying he will find out about Ben and comforting her on the fact that she said that she lost him, can make us realize we are taking out the problems on others, and that it can turn out people have great sadness themselves, and we should support him, as Gwen does when Lawrence says his father had him committed. I wish my girlfriend had been that understanding. Granted, again, I told her it was because I murdered my family, but still, I guess love isn't unconditional. Katy Perry, your song sucked. And we see that when someone greatly hurts themselves, helping others, as Lawrence does, we should be there for them also. Which Gwen does, going back for Lawrence and taking care of him, and that they can even cheer us up as well, as Lawrence is warm to Gwen even though having been injured, and being playful with her and learning her how to throw rocks in order to make her more cheerful again, and that we then see how we can reflect on how wrong it was to be prejudiced, as Gwen sees the villagers mistreat Lawrence and realizes how wrong it is, and that other people's problems can go way farther than ours, so Lawrence ends up being tortured and cursed, and sometimes we need to cheer up others also and give them hope, as Gwen does, comforting him and saying she can help him, and that understanding them can make them love us, and when we should return that love, as Gwen kisses him, and that we will lie for the people we care about, as Gwen does lying to Francis, that just as our loved ones are brave, we should be too. And Gwen goes out and meets the gypsy woman and learns she can only save Lawrence's soul, and Gwen thinks she isn't strong enough, but the gypsy woman asks if she loves him, showing that love is a reason to be strong and not to be too soft on her loved ones, and Gwen becomes so courageous she goes into the burning mansion, but is still so naive she prevents Francis from shooting him, showing we need to be realistic to help our loved ones, and also that it is our kindness which allows us to do what is necessary, as Gwen manages to calm him down only a little bit, but enough to shoot him, and we see that in the end that will be appreciated by our loved ones, as Lawrence is grateful. My girlfriend also died in my arms, only she wasn't grateful. She was screaming, "You horrible murderer! First cheating on me and now this!" And I was like, well, as I said, the sex was bad, and yeah, you don't need to know the details, let's move on. So this theme was also really deep and meaningful, as it is true that if we are stressed and troubled, we are more blunt to others, and we shouldn't always judge unless we understand someone's problems, and they can be very caring towards us. We just need to give them a chance, and we can often be hypocritical regarding our own problems, and sometimes when someone is warm, this can cause us to try and be nicer as well. And if you really know how troubled someone is, you realize that sometimes we should put our own troubles aside. That is really reminiscent of Pope Francis, who was very understanding to the foreign person and truly appreciating heroes as being there for them, like Saint Benedicta of the Cross did for a lot of injured war veterans. And those people can also indeed give hope to us, as the Jews, for example, did for Oskar Schindler, and who saw how horrible the Nazis were, who he had supported at first. And it is always possible to give someone hope, like Joseph with Jacob. And God, I need to get out of the biblical references. I mean, I've actually started to try and read the Bible. You know what that does to Catholic? We're not supposed to read the Bible, we're just supposed to listen to the priest. And do you know how long that book is? And how much detail there's in it? I mean, oh my god, it covers like 2,000 years of history, and then there's also a debate of what is true or not. And as an historian, of course, I want to find out, and that it requires even more research. Anywho, and we can be comforting and return love, and if you truly love someone, you should lie for them, as always fair in love. And love sometimes is a source of strength, not just for kindness and softness, as it means doing tough things for the people we care about. And indeed, therefore you need to be realistic, and kindness does help us save our loved ones, as we can reach in their heart, and our loved ones can be grateful, like people who encourage us to quit addictions that are hurting us, even when we don't really want to, because it's difficult. So this was a really smart theme also. Now, excuse me, I need to throw up. Again. It turns out I'm allergic to chocolate. Or maybe I just ate too much of it. Way too much. Again.